Well, the U.S. Department of Education is investigating Harvard over the university's legacy admissions policy. The Education Department's Civil Rights Office opened the investigation after complaints were filed by some civil rights groups. They claim Harvard's legacy policy overwhelmingly favors white applicants. To talk to us about this and more is Betsy DeVos, former education secretary for the Trump administration. Betsy, great to be with you today. First off, what more do you know about this investigation, and where do you see this going?
Well, Tracy, on the heels of the Supreme Court decision with regard to affirmative action policies, it's not a surprise that this OCR would open an investigation on those types of admissions. But the reality is that admissions to higher ed institutions should be based on merit. And, the left has continued to claim that affirmative action is the way to have the most diverse student body. The reality is, though, that the solution is to actually introduce education freedom policies and fix the K-12 system by doing so, by introducing competition and the marketplace into K-12 learning years.
Yeah, meantime, yesterday, Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, he spoke at a meeting about equal opportunity in higher education, and he said the Supreme Court's ruling last month about affirmative action in higher education will create challenges, and said the decision in part, quote, is like a new low point. Betsy, I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, and he also said that affirmative action was the best tool to use to make sure higher ed institutions had diverse student populations. But the best tool is to make sure that all students who are applying for higher ed institutions are prepared to go to those schools and to do the work. And for years, the left has ignored the fact and tried to obfuscate the fact that so many kids are not prepared to go to higher ed institutions because the K-12 system has failed them. And again, the best policy to change that dynamic is to introduce education freedom so that families in those schools that are failing those kids can make choices other than their assigned school, and those kids can develop to their fullest potential.
Yeah, and let's talk about that school choice. Now, I know there have been a lot of wins on that front recently, but according to a report out today by the Washington Free Beacon, there seems to be a real battle brewing in Nebraska with the National Education Association, the biggest teachers union, apparently donating a large sum of money to a group that wants to force a referendum in order to eliminate the state's school choice program. Betsy, what is this all about? And why would a teachers union want to kill a program that seems to have the students' best interest at heart?
Well, teachers unions everywhere have tried to kill programs even before they could get going. Anything that threatens their total power and control over the system and over the resources that fund the system has been at the subject of their ire and their battling for decades now. And we're seeing this we're still seeing this across the country, but the momentum behind school choice education freedom is so significant today, primarily because all families saw firsthand what schools were doing during the pandemic, and many families were appalled and just so disappointed by what their child's school, how they handled and navigated that the momentum around education freedom policies has continued to build. And this is the moment for those policies really to get passed and take root in states all across the country. And states with Republican governors and legislatures have been able to pass significant bills to free up families to make these decisions. And it's a very, very good thing for kids. I predict it's going to continue, and that reality is going to take root for all Americans eventually.
Betsy, we have about 30 seconds left or so. What else are you following? What's on your radar, and what should we know?
Well, again, education freedom policies are on the rise, and this is the best thing for kids. It's the best thing for our country's future. We need kids to unlock their potential and be prepared. And this is the best way to ensure that happens.
Well, we are going to leave it right there. Betsy, thank you so much for coming on today and for your insights. Always appreciate it.